But last night I reposted a reel from last year about when toxic parents still send birthday cards. And I said, look, because Christmas is coming up, and I know that this time of year is when these sorts of parents will check in and start sending birthday cards in that way. And yeah, I mean, it's got the same fucking, it's blown up in the same way that it did last time. And you get a lot of the parents on here that just don't understand. One of the key comments that I get from people, by the way, is, and if we don't send cards, then we get abused for that. And I'm like, listen, I know that estrangement happens for lots of different reasons, right? I know that it's a complex issue. I specifically talk about a certain kind of parent that, by the way, uses the struggle that people that are facing family estrangement actually go through, uses that to their advantage to perpetuate their victimhood. So if you are estranged from family for reasons other than the toxic parents in the way that I'm talking about, then you should also be pissed off with these people that are using your very genuine difficult situation to perpetuate their own victimhood, okay? These specific people tap into all of these kind of things to be able to perpetuate, as I've said, their own victimhood. And these people who have abused, and it is emotionally abused their children throughout their whole life, and then still use sending cards as a way to continue that abuse, despite if a firm boundary has been put up of no contact. If you think that their only option is to send a card and to not send a card, if we were talking about real people, then they should be looking at changed behavior. Change your fucking behavior. All right. And the reality is that when we're talking about the certain type of parent that I'm talking about, they won't change their behavior. And people need to understand this. Toxic, emotionally abusive people exist. They fucking exist. And most of them have kids. And they are not toxic, abusive, and horrible to everyone apart from their kids. In fact, it's normally the opposite way round. They are normally as lovely as they can be to the people around them, because how they're perceived publicly and by people outside of their family is more important to them than anything in the world. And so they'll behave like that outwardly, and then they are awful to their kids. Again, like I've said loads of times in the past, if you don't understand that, then that's great for you. Right, that's great for you. But I think a lot of these people that turn up commenting on the post, I'll be completely honest with you, you click on some of them and they've got in their bio, family first, family is everything, and all this kind of stuff. And listen, if you've got that in your bio, I think that's great if those things are actually true, right? I'm not sort of saying that you shouldn't have that in your bio, but you can just see it a mile off, man. You can see these people a mile off. In their profile, it's normally all fucking loving shit, live, love, laugh, keep calm and carry on, positive vibes only. And again, I'm not against any of those sayings, but they're just common with the type of person that I'm talking about. And now I want to make a key point here, because the subject today that I'm going to talk predominantly about is children of alcoholics. When I talk about toxic parents, right, there is I write in the book that there's a sliding scale of what I'm talking about, right? I think we can all experience a level of what we might call toxicity from even the best of parents, right? We all have our toxic traits, and though we might not like to admit it, I believe those traits, the worst of us, tends to come out when we interact with our children, mainly because toxic traits come about in relationship to how we experienced life when we were children. And so our children have a tendency to trigger the child part inside of us. I'm a parent myself. My children will be able to talk about some of my own toxic traits, right? So there is a sliding scale. When I talk about the toxic parents right up at this end, they are a certain fucking breed, all right? They are a certain breed. And I do think that on the whole, it's difficult for most people to understand that level. When I talk about children of alcoholics, when I talk about alcoholic parents, I'm not necessarily saying that a parent that is an alcoholic is toxic, right? I'm not saying that. Now, their children will experience lots of toxicity as a result of their addiction. But I do think that you can have people that get trapped in addiction that are good people, that, struggle with the world and seek escape. And as a result of that, they get locked up and trapped up in, rolled up in addiction. I'd like to consider myself as one of those people. All right. Then you get toxic and horrible people who get trapped up in addiction, and they're very different. But what I would say is that when I was trapped in addiction, my behavior was very narcissistic. And so if I had never got free of addiction and remained trapped in addiction my whole life, then my kids could have said that I'm a toxic parent. Like they absolutely could have said that, because I will have become emotionally abusive as a result of the things I'm talking about. And this is why